All right, so we're diving deep into dual process theory today.
Yeah, it looks like you're ready to go way beyond just the basics here.
You said a ton of research.
You did.
So our listeners probably already pretty familiar with System 1 and System 2, right?
Okay.
Two big players in this theory.
Yeah, so a real quick recap for everyone. System 1, that's like our fast, automatic, intuitive thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got System 2, the slower, more deliberate, analytical side.
Right, right.
But what we're going to do today is really go beyond just like, knowing what they are.
Yeah.
And really try to dig into how they work together, and sometimes maybe against each other.
Okay, that already sounds more interesting than just the 101.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, if our brains are kind of wired for these mental shortcuts, can we ever really be rational?
Ooh, that's a great question to start with.
Yeah.
And it's one that researchers have been, kind of wrestling with for decades.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a balancing act between our intuition and our analytical selves.
So it's not like we can just say that System 2 is always better.
No, not at all. Sometimes those quick System 1 judgments are exactly what we need.
Right.
Think about reacting without even thinking to avoid danger.
Yeah, yeah.
But it gets a little trickier when those snap judgments lead us to bias or errors.
Right.
Especially when things are complex.
Okay, so let's talk about those biases. Can you give us like an example of how our System 1 thinking can really trip us up?
Sure. So one of the classic examples is something called the conjunction fallacy.
Conjunction fallacy.
Yeah, you remember that study about Linda?
Refresh my memory.
So Linda was described as outspoken, deeply concerned with issues of social justice.
Okay.
And participants in the study, they were actually more likely to think that Linda was a feminist bank teller than just a bank teller.
Wait, but why is that a fallacy?
Right. It seems like it makes sense.
Yeah.
She fits the description.
Right.
But logically, it's actually less likely for someone to be two things than just one thing. Right.
Okay.
But our System 1, it loves a good story. So it kind of jumps to conclusions based on stereotypes.
Oh, interesting.
Even if it defies logic.
Sounds like our brain's taking shortcuts, even if it means, we end up wrong sometimes.
Exactly. And this is not just some theoretical thing either.
Oh, no.
These biases, they play out in the real world all the time.
Oh, yeah.
They influence, everything from the stuff we buy to how we interact with each other.
Yeah, okay, now I see how this dual process theory can, really have an impact on our lives.
Yeah.
But if our System 2 is supposed to be like the voice of reason, why does it let us make those mistakes?
Well, here's the thing about System 2.
Yeah.
It's lazy.
Lazy.
Thinking deeply takes a lot of effort.
Right.
And our brains are actually wired to conserve energy.
So you're telling me even though we have this, amazing capacity for logic and reasoning, our brains are actually trying to save energy.
That's exactly right, yeah.
That's why it takes so much effort to actually use System 2.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's where it gets really interesting, because if we know our brains are prone to these shortcuts and biases, what can we do about it?
Yeah, is there anything we can do? Can we train ourselves to, be more rational?
That's the big question, right?
That is the question.
And that's what we're going to keep talking about.
Awesome. I'm ready to learn. So how are researchers studying this whole dual process thing? What are they finding?
Well, one area that's really fascinating is looking at how it actually works in the brain.
Oh, okay.
They're using brain imaging to see, which parts of our brains light up when we use one system or the other.
Interesting.
So, for example, the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that's involved in planning and decision-making, that tends to be more active when we're using System 2.
So is there, a specific System 1 or System 2 part of the brain?
It's not quite that simple. It's more like different brain regions are involved, depending on what kind of thinking we're doing.
Okay.
But it's not as simple as just watching brains light up on a screen, right?
Yeah.
Researchers, they have to be really clever
Right.
in terms of how they actually test which system is in play.
Oh, I love it. Give me an example. I love these brain teasers.
All right, so there's a classic one called the Stroop task.
Stroop task.
You've probably heard of this. You have to name the color of a word, but the word itself spells out a different color.
Okay.
So you might see the word red written in blue ink.
Oh, I've done that one. It's so much harder than it sounds.
Right. Your brain just wants to say the word.
Yeah.
That's your automatic System 1 taking over.
Right.
But to get it right, To name the color of the ink, you have to use system 2.
Wow.
You have to override that automatic response.
Okay, so that's a really neat way to kind of see these systems in action.
Mm-hmm.
But are there, besides these fun little lab experiments,
Yeah.
is there evidence that this theory, applies to like our everyday decisions?
Absolutely. Let's take marketing, for example.
Okay.
Advertisers, they know how to get to our emotions,
Right.
how to use those associations. Think about those commercials with like the heartwarming music and images of happy families.
Oh, yeah. The holiday ones get me every time.
Right.
Like my system 1 is totally in charge during them.
That's it. That's exactly it. They're triggering those quick system 1 responses.
Wow.
To get us to buy things.
Vicky.
Even things that maybe we don't really need.
So are they exploiting our lazy system too?
You could say that, but the good marketers, they also provide, really detailed information.
Right.
For people who are motivated to actually engage that system too.
Okay.
Because they know some people want to compare features and read reviews and really make well thought out decisions.
So they're kind of playing both sides of our brain.
Yeah, they are.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
What about some of the more serious stuff? Like, does this play a role in things like prejudice?
Absolutely. Our brains, they automatically categorize people based on, features like race or gender. That's system 1 trying to create mental shortcuts.
Right.
But unfortunately, these automatic categorizations, they can lead to unconscious biases and prejudice.
So we could be prejudiced even if we don't want to be.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a little unnerving.
It is. But the good news is system 2 can step in. It takes conscious effort.
Yeah.
But we can override those automatic biases and work towards more equal attitudes and beliefs.
Wow. Okay. This is really giving me a whole new perspective on how my mind works.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
And that's just the beginning. I mean, researchers they're learning more all the time about how these two systems shape our thoughts and our feelings and our behaviors.
This is definitely something I'm going to be thinking about for a while. It's really amazing to think about how intricate our minds are and how they really influence everything we do.
It is, yeah. It's amazing what we're learning.
So this dual process theory, it's really making me think.
Yeah.
We've been talking about marketing and prejudice.
Right.
But can it also help us understand how we make these tough moral choices?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Definitely can.
How so?
You remember those classic thought experiments?
Yeah.
Like the trolley problem?
Vaguely, yeah.
Okay, so remind me, how does that one go?
Okay, so there's a runaway trolley.
Right.
And it's barreling down the tracks, headed straight for 5 people.
Right.
But you can flip a switch to divert it to a side track. But there's one person on that track.
Right.
Do you flip the switch?
That's the question.
Sacrifice 1 to save 5.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Oh, man, that's such a dilemma.
It is.
My gut says no, but logically, saving more lives seems like the right thing to do.
Right, and that conflict that you're describing between your gut reaction and that logical reasoning, that is dual process theory in action.
Wow.
That immediate no, that's often attributed to system 1, driven by those moral instincts that we all have.
Right.
Against causing direct harm.
Yeah, it just feels wrong to even think about, intentionally harming someone, even if it's to save other people.
Exactly. It goes against, some of our most deeply held values.
Right.
But then system 2 kicks in, starts analyzing, weighing the costs and benefits.
Right.
And maybe concludes that sacrificing 1 to save 5 is actually the most rational choice.
So is dual process theory saying we, have 2 separate moral compasses?
It's not quite that simple.
Right.
It's not that one is better or more moral.
Okay.
Both systems, they contribute to our moral compass. System 1 provides those quick, intuitive judgments based on, the values that we've developed.
Right.
And System 2 lets us kind of step back, reflect, consider different perspectives.
So how does this actually play out?
Yeah.
In these moral dilemmas.
Right.
Does research tell us which system, usually wins?
Well, research suggests that the details of the dilemma can actually influence which system takes the lead.
Really?
Yeah. So, for example, studies have shown that if the action to save those 5 people involves direct physical contact, Like pushing someone off a bridge.
Right.
System 1's aversion to causing harm is much stronger.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Flipping a switch feels a lot less personal.
Right, exactly.
Than actually pushing someone.
The emotional, how do I say this? The emotional weight of the action really matters.
Yeah.
When it feels personal,
yeah,
more direct, it triggers a much stronger negative response from System 1.
Oh, wow.
And that makes it harder for System 2 to override it.
So does that mean we're just at the mercy of our emotions when it comes to these big moral questions?
Well, not entirely. Remember, System 2 can step in, especially if we've developed, really strong moral principles that guide our reasoning.
Right.
So let's say you strongly believe in minimizing harm as a core principle.
Yeah.
Your System 2 might use that principle to justify flipping that switch in the trolley problem, overriding that emotional response.
Okay, I see. So it's this constant back and forth between our gut and our reasoned judgments.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And understanding this dynamic, I think, it helps us appreciate the complexity of moral decision-making.
Right.
Not just for ourselves, but for other people, too.
Right.
It encourages us to be more compassionate towards those who might, reach different conclusions, even in the same situation.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I'm curious about something.
Sure.
We've been talking about System 1 and System 2 as like these separate things. But is it possible that sometimes they actually work together?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's something that researchers are actively looking into.
Okay.
Some suggest that rather than two totally separate systems, it might be more accurate to think of them as two ends of a spectrum. There's probably a lot of interplay, integration happening along the way.
So it's not always one or the other.
Right. It's more like a dance.
Okay.
Sometimes one partner leads, sometimes the other.
Right.
But they're constantly working together.
I like that. It's more of a partnership than a competition.
Exactly. And it suggests that there's still a lot to learn about how these systems interact to shape our thoughts, our feelings, our actions.
So it sounds like this dual process theory could have like major implications for all sorts of fields.
It does.
From marketing to ethics and beyond.
Absolutely.
That's really interesting.
It is. And it's, what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah.
But it's important to keep in mind that it's still a theory.
Right.
It's a model for understanding the mind.
Right.
And like any good theory, it's constantly being refined.
Yeah.
Challenged by new research.
Speaking of new research, what are some of the exciting frontiers?
Yeah, so one area that's really intriguing is the role of cognitive control in dual process theory.
Cognitive control, what's that?
So this is about exploring the mental mechanisms that allow us to switch between System 1 and System 2, regulate our impulses, make more deliberate choices.
So like a mental control panel for our brains.
In a way, yeah. But it's not quite that simple. Right. There isn't just one cognitive control center in the brain. Multiple regions are involved.
Okay.
But the prefrontal cortex, which we talked about earlier, seems to play a really key role.
The prefrontal cortex, our planning and decision-making hub.
Exactly. Think of it as like the conductor of an orchestra.
Oh, like
coordinating and directing the activity of all these different brain areas.
So if we can strengthen our cognitive control, does that mean we're less likely to give in to those, tempting donuts?
Yeah. Or make rash decisions.
That's the idea.
Okay.
Research suggests that we can actually train our cognitive control.
Really?
Through practices like mindfulness and meditation.
Oh, wow.
And this can lead to better self-regulation.
Okay.
Improved decision-making, even greater well-being.
That's incredible.
It is, yeah. So by understanding this theory, we're not only like gaining insights into how our minds work.
Right.
But we're also learning how to improve our thinking, make better choices.
Exactly.
Wow, this is really empowering.
It is.
It's like we have the potential to rewire our brains for the better.
In a sense, yeah.
Right.
We're not just stuck with the brains we were born with.
Right.
We can actively shape them, mold them to become more effective and resilient.
this dual process theory
Yeah.
has given me a whole new set of tools like
Yeah.
for approaching life's challenges.
That's great.
But before we wrap up,
Uh-huh.
is there anything else our listeners should know about the current research?
Yeah, so there are a lot of exciting directions for future research.
Okay.
For example, scientists are looking into how these two systems develop throughout our lives, how they might differ across cultures,
Oh, interesting.
and how we can train them more effectively.
So it sounds like we're just scratching the surface of what we can learn about dual process theory
Definitely.
and its implications.
There's so much more to discover.
This has been a truly fascinating journey.
It has.
But I feel like we've only just begun to explore the depths of this topic.
I agree, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Dual process theory offers, endless possibilities for further exploration and discovery.
Okay, welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but my brain is like buzzing after all that.
Yeah.
Talk about dual process theory.
It's really a fascinating topic, isn't it?
It is.
Uncovering all of these, hidden things that are going on in our minds.
It really is.
Yeah.
We've been giving our listener all this info about System 1 and System 2.
Right.
But what's the takeaway?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Like, how can they actually use this in their everyday lives?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
This isn't just, some abstract idea.
Right.
It can really change how we understand ourselves and the world around us.
So it's more than just a mental model.
Yeah, it's a toolkit
Okay.
that we can use to make better decisions and live a better life.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah.
So what's the first tool in this toolkit?
Well, I would say the first tool is self-awareness.
Okay.
This theory, it really asks us to pay attention to our thoughts, our impulses, especially in those moments when we're making decisions.
Right.
So before you react to something, ask yourself, is this just my gut feeling?
Okay.
Or is this, a more reasoned judgment?
So it's like mindfulness, but for decisions.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
It's about bringing that same kind of awareness to our thought processes.
Okay, so once we have that awareness,
Right.
then what? Well, then you can start to think about those situations where you're, maybe more likely to make a mistake.
Okay.
Let's say you're about to buy something big.
Yeah.
Are you feeling that pressure?
Mm-hmm.
Like a limited time offer?
Oh, yeah.
Or are you getting caught up in all the hype?
Yeah.
That's when you need to pause
Okay.
and engage System 2.
Man, I am so guilty of that.
Yeah, we all are.
Like, I definitely made impulse purchases because my System 1 just got carried away.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
But the important thing is to recognize those triggers.
Okay.
And once you do, you can start to use strategies to give System 2 a chance.
Okay. Like what?
Well, maybe it means taking a few days to think it over.
Okay.
Doing some research.
Right.
Talking to someone you trust.
So it's about creating space
Exactly.
between the impulse and the decision.
That's it.
Okay.
And remember, System 2, as amazing as it is, it's also a little lazy.
And it gets tired easily.
That's why those late-night online shopping sprees are so dangerous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So another strategy is to build habits that strengthen that cognitive control.
Okay.
It's like working out.
Right.
But for your brain,
Okay.
the more you use those mental muscles,
Yeah.
the stronger they become. Yeah.
So what kind of brain workout should we be doing?
Well, things like mindfulness meditation,
Okay.
they've been shown to really help
Yeah.
with regulating impulses, resisting distractions, making more thoughtful choices.
I've been meaning to try meditation.
Yeah.
I keep hearing good things.
It's definitely worth a try.
Yeah.
Even simple breathing exercises can help
Okay.
just to become more aware of your thoughts
Yeah.
and have that pause button
Right.
when you need it.
This is really amazing.
Yeah.
It's like we're not stuck
Right.
with the brains we were born with.
We can train them.
To be better, to be more focused, more resilient,
Yeah.
more in control.
That's the beauty of it.
It is.
Like, this theory doesn't just describe how our minds work.
Right.
It gives us the tools to to change them.
Exactly. We can become the architects
Yeah.
of our own thinking.
So it's a journey of continuous improvement.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
There are going to be times when we slip up.
Right.
When System 1 takes over and we do something we didn't mean to.
Yeah.
But the key is to just keep practicing, keep learning, and keep, striving to be more thoughtful, more conscious, more intentional.
This has been such a fascinating
it has been
exploration. I feel like I've learned so much about myself and how my mind works.
It's been a pleasure talking about this with you.
Yeah, mine too.
And to our listener out there, we hope this deep dive has, left you feeling empowered.
Yeah.
Inspired to keep exploring.
Yeah, and remember, the more you understand about this interplay between your intuition and your analytical side, the better you'll be at making decisions that align with your values and lead to a more fulfilling life.
That's it.
So until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
Thanks for listening, everybody.